The following is a paid advertisement. The content shared does not reflect the beliefs or opinions of Three Eagles Communications, Headwaters Media, or Heart of the Rockies Radio Management or staff.
Hello and welcome to the Living in Salida podcast. I am your host, Monica McCarthy. I am a realtor that specializes in Salida and surrounding areas. And I'm here to give you a little insight into our beautiful mountain town. And today I have the wonderful guest, Laura Williams. She is a doctor of physical therapy, a board-certified women's health clinical specialist. She's a local business owner of Hearth Healing, where she helps pre- and postpartum women prepare and recover from birth and pregnancy. We'll be talking about that some here, as well as the fact that she is a mother of 2 young girls, an active Salida resident, and just an overall wonderful human being. Thank you for being here, Laura.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so let's start where we are starting with everybody in this podcast series, what's your Salida origin story? What brought you to Salida and kept you here?
Totally. So I went back to to become a physical therapist as a second career.
Okay.
And I was very clear going into PT school that I wanted to practice pelvic health.
Okay.
I also had friends that I grew up with in Chicago move to Salida 12 years ago and open a couple of really important restaurants, Sweetie's, Biker and Baker, and Mo Burrito.
Oh, okay.
Yep. They're like my best friends from growing up. And so we had visited Salida quite a bit over the years. And as I was getting ready to graduate PT school and think about where I wanted my final rotation to be, this opportunity to be in Salida came up. And randomly, Salida has an incredible pelvic health program at their hospital.
Okay.
So I really wanted to be mentored by the women that started it, fought really hard to get the internship, begged to be hired, and got it. So I started, we said, we'll start with a year and see how it goes. And 7 years later, here we are, 2 babies later, and
wow,
we stayed.
So where were you before?
We were in Denver.
In Denver, okay.
Yeah, so I went to PT school at CU.
That's fine. So you were in CU, and you're originally from Illinois, right?
Yeah. I grew up in Chicago, went to college all over the place, was living in Denver for quite some time. My husband and I met 15 years ago teaching skiing at Vail, which was sort of a side hustle.
Okay. That
I took on while I was dancing with companies in Boulder.
Okay.
I was a professional dancer in my 20s.
Had a few iterations of life already.
So many. Yep. So I was 28 when I went back to start my prereqs for PT school. And that was a 3-year process. PT school was 2.5 years. And that was all in Denver.
Okay.
So we were in Denver for quite some time before we decided to move to Salida.
Okay.
And Denver had gotten really loud.
Mm-hmm.
It was incredibly, we were in the same position there that we're in now here, which we'll talk about. But,
yeah.
We were kind of priced out of the housing market. Luckily, we bought our first home there. Mm-hmm. But then we got priced out. And we were also driving 2+ hours to get to the mountains, which is why we live in Colorado.
Yeah.
And spending all of our time in the car or just not doing it because we were so dissuaded by that.
Yeah.
So we decided that this was a perfect fit to just see if we could actually live where we want to play and see if we could actually make a living doing it. And there have certainly been some ups and downs, but we're still here.
Yeah.
We're fighting the fight.
So it started out with you seeking the position
at Heart of the Rockies.
At Heart of the Rockies.
Yep.
Okay. And then you guys, what was it, 2017?
Yep, 2017, okay. August of 2017.
Funny. We have a very similar path here in terms of like the timing and leaving Denver.
Yeah.
We left at almost the same time.
Did you guys come in 2017 too?
Yeah, we did.
Wow.
It's funny. We didn't meet until a few years ago, but yeah, same thing.
Yep.
Leaving the city for this beautiful place.
Yep.
So how many times had you visited Salida before you decided to?
A handful, like maybe 5 or 6, but never with the perspective of moving here.
Okay.
And then we started kind of coming down. I had a couple of interviews to get my position. So I came down by myself. I really could envision a life here. I fell in love with it. I dragged Morgan back with me.
Yeah.
And we spent a weekend just really looking at Salida through the lens of a life.
Yeah.
And we were like, yeah, I think we could really do this. So we found a rental for the first year and just let it sort of evolve if it was meant to be. And he got a job and my job became a permanent position. So it just fell into place.
That's awesome. So you rented at first and then when, because you bought a home eventually, right? Okay.
We bought a home in August of 2018. So we're coming up on our 6-year anniversary in our house.
Nice.
And we had like a few hills we wanted to die on. It's so funny because in retrospect, homes that were only $50,000 more at that time felt like so out of reach for us. But now
I know.
we wish we had just stretched just a little bit. But we really wanted to be in town because the beauty of living here for us is the walkability. So we really wanted a house in town, and we really wanted a historic home.
Oh, you did? Okay.
But we didn't want a house that required a ton of work moving in.
Those are almost
impossible.
Incompatible.
Yep, but we did. We found it.
Okay.
We found it. And, it's a small home. It's probably 1,050 square feet, including a studio off the side that's a repurposed, single car garage that someone was using as a gallery space. But that's perfect for my husband. So that's his office.
Okay.
2-bed, 1.5 bath. It had a extra half bath, which was also
that's helpful. Yeah.
a total golden egg. And it's right downtown. So we literally don't drive unless we want to go to the mountains or actively go somewhere in our cars.
Nice.
Which is really magical.
Yeah. So that's another question, is kind of what's kept you in Salida? Because like you mentioned, I don't know, home prices and all of that. So you, but you found the idyllic downtown Salida lifestyle.
Yep.
What, I guess what's kept you here? I'll keep that question.
I think like lifestyle and community are the two things that keep us.
Okay.
Our house is certainly not the thing that's keeping us at this point. I mean, we love the location. I don't know if you want to talk about this now, but
let's do it.
We're totally priced out of the market. And for us to have one more bedroom, like we have a 2-bedroom home. I have 2 little kids. They're 4.5 and 13 months.
Yeah.
And, the baby's still in our bedroom, which is fine. Let's be clear. We are in such a privileged position that we even own a home.
Sure.
But like everything in our house is growing except our house. So, but to have another bedroom in this community is $1 million in a home that's not falling apart.
Yeah.
Or that's like sort of the next home for us.
Certainly in the downtown Salida area.
Definitely in the downtown Salida area. And so, it's either moving out of town, which we're not ready to do, or leaving Salida, which we're also not ready to do. So we're here and we have roots here, but it's really the community. Like we have the best community of people, you being a part of that. Like our kids are growing up in such a special way. And it's, what this natural environment is doing to their brains. I can't even.
That's true. It is a good point. Yeah.
Begin to imagine. And Sydney is in an amazing school. She's outside all the time. I mean, she's just having these experiences she wouldn't be having anywhere else. And we just keep fighting for it. Like childcare is expensive. Getting into preschool was a shit show. Oh, I swore. It's okay. But the reality is like we just keep fighting for it because we've gotten so attached to this quality of life. Yeah. And just the way that the community comes together and rallies around each other. I mean, for all of the challenges that I've had in my postpartum experiences, the way that this community turned out for me and my family was like nothing I'd ever seen anywhere else I've lived.
Wow.
So it's stuff like that. It's the intangibles that really make us,
so you're willing to kind of make those, I guess, sacrifices. I mean, it's, or trade-offs, however you want to put it. Is,
absolutely.
Just trading off for not as big of a house as that would be more comfortable for you, but you're in this community. Yeah. So I guess there's so many things that came up when you were just talking. But first, okay, so Sydney's your oldest daughter. That's actually how you and I met, was because your daughters are on the same side, around the same age as my son.
Yep.
And so I guess let's talk a little bit about the preschool part or the childcare part, because I know that, I mean, that's a reality. We're trying to be real of living here. And I know that was something for you when I first met you. I think I first met you at the library during the story time. Salida's library is wonderful and has a wonderful story time. And we were both talking about childcare. Like, what are you doing? That was always the question.
Yeah, absolutely. How are we making this work?
Yeah.
That is how we met. It's so funny. So it has been, I mean, with my first daughter, it was like a turntable of nannies.
Yeah.
And we didn't care. I mean, at that time we were paying $25 an hour. Now it's more.
Wow. Okay.
But it was like just finding someone, a warm body that we sort of trusted to watch our kids so that we could go to our jobs that didn't really pay us enough to afford that nanny. But that was where our benefits were coming from. And we just needed to make that happen.
Yeah.
You know? So I've been doing that for so long. I'm just like, where is she going to go next? And how are we going to piece this together?
Yeah.
We put her on all of the preschool, wait lists when she was probably 6 months old, and it was a year too late. And so the preschool that our kiddos met at was a total luck. Total stroke of luck, I think.
It was.
It was just meeting the right people at the right time.
It was a little bit of that.
And it was the perfect thing
because
that
it was
our
a little
kids
at-home
needed.
situation that wasn't advertised.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was awesome.
Yeah.
But then when that closed, it was like, what's the next step? So we've just been cobbling that together for her. Now she's finally in one preschool for the last year of preschool for the first time. She's been at 2 schools this entire time.
That's right. You were juggling between 2
Yeah,
for
we
a
were
while.
piecing it together.
Yeah.
But we made it. And the summer, it's extremely expensive, but it's also the only one that has summer.
But
So we're like, we'll pay for it
also
because we
the
feel lucky to
unicorn.
have it. It's totally a unicorn. So that is amazing.
Yeah.
The baby has a babysitter, and my husband and I both now work for ourselves, which is a very new thing. So we do have a lot more flexibility. So like this week, there's no preschool. I have my older daughter, the baby's with the babysitter. I'll have a couple days with the baby. He'll have a couple days with the baby. So we literally just cobble it together month over month, which I don't know if that's unique to this community.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
we're just
to varying
paying
degrees. Yeah.
way more than our mortgage to keep these kids,
Wow.
in childcare.
So let's talk a little bit about, one thing you mentioned that I really liked was the community aspect. You said people came together for you. Talk a little bit more about that. I thought that was a good anecdote.
I mean, first of all, having a baby at this hospital is like a pretty unique experience because it's a very small birth center. I was alone on the floor, with both babies postpartum. So I felt like I had just so much attention and support.
You're talking about our Heart of the Rockies in Salida.
Yep, at the Family Birth Center. If you're having a low risk pregnancy or delivery, it's an incredible place to be. And I can talk more about that too when we talk about the perinatal support. But that in and of itself was so unique and supportive. And then like maybe I was just living under a rock, or maybe it's this phase of life, but meal trains, I've never known a place that is like so about meal trains.
That's true.
Right? I mean, it's everything. And so you have like toe surgery, you get a meal train. And it was just shocking to me. And it was such a lesson in receiving that people just sort of lined up. We had meals delivered for a month.
Wow.
And
was this is after your second child,
both.
Right? Oh, really?
Yep.
Wow.
Both. It was
I asked because it was COVID, right? Like,
it was pre-COVID. So my first was born January 5th of 2020. So I went back to work after the remaining 11 weeks of my FMLA, the week the hospital shut down.
Okay. That's right.
March 11th.
Of 2020.
But who's counting? So yes, when she was born, it was pre-COVID. It was totally
true.
normal.
People were doing those things. Okay.
Yeah. So it's that sort of thing where everyone just is like, how can I help?
Yeah.
And it has really taught me. I've been so uncomfortable receiving help and allowing help in. And I think this community has taught me how to support other people in a more meaningful way, like to just do instead of ask.
Yeah.
And to receive it, because we all do that for each other.
And I think the beautiful thing about that is at the time you'd only been here for a few years. If this was 2020, it was 3 years after you'd been here. To be settled in a community that does that after such a short amount of time.
Totally.
I mean,
but I also had really public jobs. So I worked at the hospital.
That's true. Yeah.
And I was teaching yoga.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
So both of my jobs created a lot of community really quickly.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But still to be able to find that here.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about your job. So you are a physical therapist, doctor of physical therapy. Explain a little bit more about that.
Sure. So I'm a doctor of physical therapy. I specialize in pelvic health, and I super specialize in perinatal support. So I help women during pregnancy to stay comfortable and strong and prepare for labor and delivery. And then I support women immediately postpartum and on forever. Right. So I was working in a clinical space in the outpatient clinic at Heart of the Rockies for 7 years, just a touch below. And, at the hospital, we really treat everything, which I think was such a fundamental part of me becoming the therapist that I am today, because I didn't just see pelvic health. I was still treating everything across the board, across the lifespan. And I think that made me a really holistic provider. Because even to this day, my clients that are postpartum are having knee pain and neck pain. And I treat all of those things because they're a whole person with a pelvis. Right.
Sure. That's good.
Yeah. So, Heart of the Rockies just helped me become a really, really robust generalist. And the team at that clinic is so unbelievably talented. And everyone has a unique specialty. So I really learned a lot about how to be a holistic provider. But my own personal experience really took me in this direction of wanting to create more virtual support
Okay.
And kind of create support that is in women's homes in a way that they can actually receive it.
Okay.
So now what I do, Hearth Healing is a fully virtual business.
Okay.
And I help women recover from leakage, pain, weakness, just feel their best in their bodies during pregnancy and immediately postpartum, or for the rest of their lives, because we're always postpartum.
Mm-hmm. It's true.
But what was happening in clinic was that women were coming to me, you know, maybe they would get referred to PT at their 6-week postpartum visit. Maybe. Then it would take them another, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Then it would take them another 6 to 8 weeks to get in to see us. And so the entire first 12 weeks postpartum, which we refer to as the 4th trimester, were over.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that they can't create so much change in their bodies at that time, but it means that they went for all of that time without support and without knowing what they could have been doing to help themselves heal.
And it's such a hard time.
And it's so isolating and
Yeah.
it's so hard. And you just deserve to know. I mean, I basically believe that every woman deserves this information about their intrinsic healing, and
Yeah.
nobody's giving it to them.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The focus turns completely to the baby after they're born, and we are the discarded candy wrapper. So
You're not wrong.
yeah, right. So
Yeah.
I started this virtual business doing one-time postpartum consultations, and I just wanted women to have a little bit of information about like what's normal at 6 weeks postpartum, and here's how to breathe when you pick up the car seat, and right,
Yeah.
here's how to get in and out of bed without pain. And that has ballooned into something much greater. So now I start working with people anytime during pregnancy. We do labor and delivery training, and then they basically have a PT in their pocket. So immediately postpartum, we start the recovery journey.
Wow.
But it's all virtual. It's all in-app. I customize everything for each client. It takes all of the decision fatigue out of it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So when they sign up with you, they get access to you have an app?
Yep.
That's so cool.
Yeah. So I have an app. They get access to it. It's a two-way, communication system.
Okay.
And I custom build every single week in that app for them. So all they have to do is open it up. Their program is right there. It's all videos of all the exercises. Wow. They're all me teaching them.
Yeah.
And then they get to just check the bullet.
Yeah.
Because who doesn't love an action item?
Absolutely.
So while new moms are out there advocating for everybody else, I'm actually just advocating for them, which nobody else is.
And reminding them to do that, because it's so easy to put yourself last.
Yep. And just customizing it so it fits their life down to the amount of time they have each day and where they're at in their healing. And
yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I wish I would, honestly, I really do wish I would have had that. It was so isolating.
And I wish everybody has this.
Yeah,
had this,
absolutely.
right? So
Everybody
that's what I
should.
do.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what was, you alluded to your personal experience and getting there.
Yes.
So you're a mother of 2. There's some, with a lot of knowledge. What pushed you in this direction?
I always did OB. Ann Krogan and Sarah Huddleston are phenomenal physical therapists that started this pelvic health program. Sarah started it and built the OB program at our hospital, which is incredible. Every single person that has a baby in our hospital is seen by a pelvic floor physical therapist or occupational therapist before discharge, we're like one of 47 hospitals in the country that are doing that.
So incredible.
Yeah.
Like this traumatic event on your body it's not, it should just
treated like literally treated like a paper cut. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that knowledge base that I learned, I've done thousands of hours of continuing education and got my board certification in this, but also just learning from them and being in the room with them and collaborating with them. I went into my own delivery feeling like I've got this. Mm-hmm. I know everything there is to know. I'm laughing. It's so ridiculous about physiological birth. I know I'm going to have an unmedicated vaginal delivery. It's going to be great.
Totally.
And it was not that. It was something totally other. I had my doula, but I had a really funky labor pattern for way too long, like 7 hours of just enduring.
Yeah.
Got an epidural, had another 10 hours go by, pushed for 10 hours, and ended up having an emergency C-section. And
That's
now
a really long time, you guys, just so you know.
I know this is like not my audience, but
I just, for the average person,
it's way too long.
Way too long.
It's way too long. So, but in retrospect, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it gave me so much more empathy for all of the different ways that this unfolds and all of the different choices that women get to make and deserve to make about what's right for their bodies. That doesn't have to be an unmedicated vaginal delivery. And now I know how to meet that moment for all of those other women and remind them that they will be supported no matter how that delivery goes. And the only thing that's a guarantee is that it's not going to go according to plan.
100%.
Yeah. Yep. So I was floored. I felt so isolated. I was devastated. I felt physically broken. I felt like, how am I going to do this job of teaching people about physiological birth when I failed, in quotes?
Yeah, it does. Our society does add the big failure if you don't have the traditional birth.
Yeah.
I felt that way too. I had a cesarean, and yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
But it also saved my life. So.
Exactly. And my babies.
And my babies.
And I got to try so hard. I got to try really hard. And so now I approach birth, labor and delivery preparation with my clients and postpartum recovery with zero guilt or shame and zero expectation. All I care about is that my clients have self-advocacy, information, education, and can give informed consent, which is different than just saying yes and being gaslit by your medical team. And so anyway, yeah, that is what colored this whole business. I was like, women deserve to have more support from 0 to 6 weeks and beyond.
Yeah.
And not be on an island and not be in the dark about what their bodies are doing and have empowering.
And it's kind of embarrassing too.
Totally.
I mean, people don't know what to talk about and what's normal because it's not talked about. So
and as demonstrated here, I just walk around the world talking about these things. Because I want to diminish that stigma.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's the most natural thing we do. Yes.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's where what were we even talking about? We're just in a different place now.
Yeah.
But that was my birth experience. The second time I had a planned cesarean because I didn't want to go through that again. Also, that was the right choice for me. But what I did feel was completely supported by the hospital. I just felt like completely ghosted as soon as I got home. And I wanted to pick up the slack in that space where we're really lacking.
Yeah. And there is such a need for that. And so I know that you can attest to this because, I mean, I was talking to you, a month or so ago, and when did you start your business?
I soft started my business 18 months ago.
Okay.
I relaunched my business, kind of rebuilt it.
Yeah.
About 6 months ago.
Yeah. And you are exploding.
Yeah, I'm exploding.
I know you had to hire somebody, right?
Yep. I hired an assistant about a month ago, maybe 2 months ago, which is the best thing that's ever happened to me. Yeah. So when I started Hearth, I was doing these one-time consults. I finally hired a mentor because I was like, I know how to do what I do. And I know that there's magic here, but I do not know how to run a business.
Yeah.
So I hired a mentor who has helped me really learn how to make this a viable business. Now I have clients all over the country at all different phases of pre and postnatal support. And I've been able to quit my job and completely work for myself.
That's amazing.
So that's why I said this is newly because it's been like a month since I've been fully self-employed.
You just stopped working at Heart of the Rockies and went all out on your own.
All out on my own.
That's huge.
Yep.
Congrats.
Thanks. But it's afforded me the freedom to just be a mom.
Yeah.
Be present with my kids. You know, my older daughter doesn't have preschool this week and she's just hanging with me. So I can make that work and I can get what I need to get done in a time that fits into my life. And I have felt like I've had to sacrifice being a present parent for so long.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I felt like having kids was a detriment to me professionally, that it was frowned upon and that it made me seem less professional. And I don't know what story that was, but that was the story I was telling myself and that I had been receiving.
Sure.
But as you know, when you're a mom, your kids get sick and you have to stay home with them, or your babysitter is sick and you have to stay home with them. And I was doing that and using all of my PTO to do it, and then not being able to actually spend quality time with them. So this just allows me to be in all of the spaces, make the impact I want to make, and be with my family.
That's amazing. So you're making Salida work as your own, as an entrepreneur. It's funny because somebody reached out to me and they're like, how do people make Salida work? And I think that's a good question too.
Well, that was, I think that's a really good question. And I think this is a good segue into it, which is working in the hospital was really important for me for a long time.
Yeah.
But the minute I had a baby, it didn't work. But I didn't want to acknowledge that. So I was just swimming upstream for a really long time. And my husband and my salaries together, both working, full time at the hospital for me was 32 hours, but we were barely scraping by. We had zero extra and we weren't saving. We were just living.
Yeah.
And then when I had kids, I had to go to part-time. I also had a really severe back injury from my first delivery. So I was dealing with that. I couldn't be on my feet as much at work. So I went to part-time and then we were really in debt.
Yeah.
So there wasn't a way. Yeah. There wasn't a way to work in that templated structure and be with my kids and make a living. So I was trying to fight that fight for a long time. And we finally realized that, exactly as you're saying, the way that we could afford to live in this community was to work for ourselves.
Yeah, which some people have to do. And then your husband just recently started his
he's
own
working
business
for himself too.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're both entrepreneurs and making it work.
Yep. And we have more flexibility and we're making more money.
That's amazing. That's what you want, right?
Yeah. And so we're still here, right? So we just keep fighting. We're like, okay, there's a way. We'll figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's almost like that's the motivation you need sometimes is just that extra push.
Totally.
When you get a little uncomfortable.
Yeah. And when you feel like everything is in resistance and you go, okay, what's a better way? We just have to figure out a different way.
Just think outside the box. So you are, and then I guess to segue a little bit over into making Salida work. So you mentioned that your house is not as big as you'd like for your larger growing family.
We're done growing, but everybody inside the house is growing.
And moving around more as they do. But yeah, so you have decided to not try to get a larger home, but instead you're planning on remodeling your downtown home, right?
Yeah.
So talk a little bit more about that.
Yep. So we're super lucky. We're a commercially zoned home and we're on an 8,000 square foot lot, which goes straight back to the alley. So we're the only home on our block that doesn't have an ADU. And so we have a lot of room to expand, but our house is an 1899 like original mining house. And so it's on a cobblestone foundation. So nothing. So these are like the Salida quirks, right?
Yeah.
Our house is sort of cobbled together. Yeah. So instead of putting anything on our home, we have to basically build a new home against the back and cantilever it against our house. So it can feel like a continuous addition, but that's the way that they have to build it.
Okay.
So we have been in the process of trying to get this started for 4 years.
Oh, wow.
We've been through 2 designers.
Okay.
And we are not quite there yet. We love our GC. We really want him to do the project, but also, I mean, the turnaround time in this community is pretty slow.
Yeah.
So we're holding out. We're sort of in this place of feeling really open now. Like if this feels like so much resistance. It has been so difficult to get this going. And we've been having babies and other things have come up that have made us a little bit less aggressive about doing it. Having a hole in our backyard. Yeah. Starting businesses. But we do really love our location and we really think it would be an incredible investment. Like amazing investment.
It would add a lot of value.
It would add a lot of value.
Yeah, I can definitely say that.
Yeah. So we just want to do basically a new kitchen, master bed and bath off the back. And we're trying to decide if we can afford to dig out a basement. And then that's it. Nice. But it's impossible to get it started. So,
and that's, I mean, I keep saying this, but I want to be a little real. That is a challenge because when I have people ask me about building homes or remodeling homes, getting contractors, there is a need for more help with that.
Yep.
And some people won't call you back or you're on their long list and that sort of thing. So that's a good insight into that's one of the barriers or challenges, I should say, to living here and wanting to build or remodel here, right?
Totally.
So
absolutely.
It sounds like that you found your people and you're on their list and it's going to happen soon, hopefully. And yeah.
Yeah, hopefully. And if it doesn't, we are open to like if the perfect house came on the market and it was reasonable for us. The other issue is that we bought our house 3%. So to then jump to a mortgage at 6% would be really high comparatively. And we were able to do a cash out refi at 3%. So we have money to put into the house. We just are like begging someone to take our money and give us more space, right?
Okay. Well, if you're listening and you, I don't know your commitment.
Dear designers, please finish our project. So yeah, we'll see. We'll just see what happens,
Yeah. Yeah. But that is one of the things here is that could, because the homes down in downtown Salida are often smaller. And that is that's the give and take of being right in the heart of downtown because you get to just walk.
And I don't know, you can attest to this more than I can, but I feel like we're also in competition with a lot of second homeowners who are coming in, remodeling homes, doing much bigger scale projects that are more lucrative for the people that are working on them. And I feel like we're competing with that for like our very small addition.
Maybe. I mean, I don't know. I think it's overall just there's more demand. Yeah. So I don't know who exactly those people are, but just there's more demand than there is supply for contractors, or certainly the ones that will be able to get back to you and
of course,
get it going. So
that makes sense.
I think
it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is. Let's see, anything else? I think just I enjoy your insights into just being a homeowner here and business owner here and mom here. And anything else you want to add about living in Salida that you think anybody who's listening to this, whether they live here or they're thinking of living here, might enjoy?
No, I think, sitting here with you, I'm just thinking about how much our kids are benefiting from living here, and that's such another piece of that really keeps us here.
Yeah.
Is our kids' community of friends and their parents.
Yeah.
And the way that we're choosing to raise our children feels like we're really in that together. And, yes, I wish we had more resources in terms of childcare that was affordable and preschool. But I also think that we all kind of rally around each other and support each other raising families here. And that's been a really special part of being here that was an added layer since we didn't have kids when we moved, right?
Yeah. But I know when we moved here, that was the thought, was this would be a good place to raise a family. Did you have that thought when you came here?
I think we did.
It kind of fell into
in the back of our minds. I don't know that we thought we'd stay when we first came.
Oh, okay.
But as soon as we made that decision, we felt like we love our doctor. We love our team, our medical team. We love our community. And so it felt right when we decided to do it.
Yeah.
For sure.
And then just kind of keeping it here. Like you said, I mean, I see kids riding their bikes around town, and, there's some free range kids that are just, it's summertime. You see a lot of younger kids just kind of riding their bikes and playing. And it's, I feel like we're kind of all, like you said, kind of all in it together. Yeah. I know that was one of the things I thought when I I saw an older woman riding a bike and a little kid riding a bike just on one of the main streets in town. It's like, wow, it's safe enough for that, which was a big eye opener for me compared to being in Denver.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Sydney rides her little 2-wheel bike everywhere. Yeah. And we go to music in the park and we always run into friends, or we go to the farmer's market and we just see everybody. We never have to make plans. Everyone is just around. Our kids run off together. Somebody's always watching. We're sort of group parenting. And it's just lovely.
Yeah.
It's really lovely.
And it does feel safe to do that, because it's very rare that I go to a park where I don't know another parent. Or you just start chatting it up and you have a new friend. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Because it's friendly enough for that. So I agree. Well, awesome. Well, you're a wonderful part of the community. I'm glad that you're here and you contribute so much. So thank you for being here. Where can people find your services and learn more about you?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. My handle on Instagram is Your Hearth Healing.
Okay.
Hearth, Hearth. And my website is yourhearthhealing.com.
Okay. And I'll have that information in the show notes as well if you didn't catch that. And this is Laura Williams. Thank you so much for being on. And thanks for listening to the Living in Salida podcast. Again, I'm Monica McCarthy, a realtor who specializes in Salida and surrounding areas. And if you found this podcast interesting, helpful, somebody who might be interested in listening to, please share it and subscribe if you can. Thank you so much for listening. And my information is in the show notes. If you're interested in being on this podcast, you can email me at livinginsalida@gmail.com. Thanks and have a wonderful day.